Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Let's have a look at how we can add a new skill to the XGrid framework. The XGrid skill pipeline is easy to follow and highly customizable. You can make offensive skills that target enemies, as well as support skills that power up the player's units. In this tutorial, we'll make both an offensive and a supportive skill. For our offensive skill, let's make it a ranged skill that launches a ball of energy from above the caster at a large target area, and has a % chance to stun units in the area. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do is open up our enumeration folder, and we'll go ahead and navigate to the skills folder inside of that, and we'll open up our skill list. We're going to go ahead and click this button up here, New, and we will add a new entry with the name of our skill. So we'll call this one Skybolt, let's say. The next thing that we're going to want to do is set up our blueprint for the skill. So we'll go ahead and save this and exit. And we'll go back to the main folder and navigate to skills. Now, since this is a projectile skill, we'll go ahead and right click on the projectile skill blueprint and we'll create a child blueprint class of it. And we're going to call this child blueprint the same name as the one that's in the enumeration, so sky_bolt. Now that we have our skill blueprint created, let's select some particle effects for it. XGrid comes with a number of particle systems, materials, textures, and meshes to create our own special effects. But for now, let's use one of the out-of-the-box Niagara systems. We'll open up our skill blueprint and select the Open Full Blueprint Editor button here. Now, we have a number of different Niagara systems hooked up. So let's go ahead and select the one that we want for our projectile first. So I'll scroll over to the Niagara system asset here, and I'm going to type in ns_projectile, and I will search for the lightning ball one. Similarly, for the hit one, I'm going to go ahead and do ns_hit and lightning. And for the muzzle, we'll do the same thing. ns_hit muzzle and lightning. Now that we have our particle systems selected, let's go ahead and scale them up so that it makes a little bit more of a visual impact for our area of effect skill. We'll go ahead and go to the user scale of each of these skills, and we'll go ahead and just set it to, I don't know, let's say 2 times bigger. All right, that looks pretty good. And we'll see at the end that our visual representation of our skill will basically be this lightning projectile that we have here, and it'll just zoom on over to our target cell, and it'll explode over that cell. So the next thing that we're going to do is we need some way to explain to the game how to spawn this particular skill, like where it should spawn and what blueprint it should use. So we'll go ahead and go back to XGrid, and we'll go to Units, and we'll open up the Character Unit class. Now, inside the Character Unit class, we're going to go ahead and look for a specific function. We're actually going to look for 2 of them, and here they are. Select Skill Class and Select Skill Transform. So we'll open up both of these, and all we're going to do is scroll down here to our enumeration pin, and as you can see, we have one called Skybolt that doesn't have anything connected to it right now. So all we're going to do is we're going to drag that out, and we're going to grab a return node, and inside this little drop down menu here where it says skill, we're just going to select Skybolt from the drop down menu, and this is going to connect our skill blueprint to the class so that we can spawn the skill inside the level. Now the next step is pretty similar. We're just going to go to our select skill transform, and as we can see, we have another blank entry here for our skill, so we're just going to drag that one down as well, and we're going to add a return statement here. And here what we're doing is we're basically telling the skill where in the level we want it to spawn, like the location, rotation, and a scale that we want it to spawn with. So there are a number of different functions that XGrid offers in order to quickly select some common transformations. So let's go ahead and find get transform above caster and face target. So we'll go ahead and hook this up, and we'll connect the return pin. And now we just need to fill out a couple of these different things. So we need the unit that's casting it. So we'll get a reference to self here, and we need the targeted cell as well. And what we want to do in order to get that is we'll type in get AOE target cell, get AOE target cell, and we'll hook that up right here. We can also adjust the skill scale, but I think we'll just keep it at 1 for right now. And then this last variable is the amount above the caster we want it to be. So let's go ahead and set it to, I don't know, like let's set it to 6 meters above the caster. So 600 centimeters. And we'll go ahead and hit compile. So the last thing that we need to do is to describe what our skill does in the context of the game. And we can do that by going to our databases folder and opening up our skill table. And we're just going to add a new skill right here. We want to name this the same thing as our enumeration and our child blueprint. So let's call it Skybolt. And we'll go through each of these little entries here so that we get our skill attuned just the way that we want. So the first entry here is the enumeration entry. So let's go ahead and select our skill Skybolt from it. The next one is whether it's offensive or supportive. So we'll select offensive. And our base magnitude is going to be how much damage our skill does. So let's go ahead and have it do, I don't know, let's say 7 damage. We can provide a range, so how many cells away can this skill be used to target. And we'll go ahead and let's just maybe give it 5 range. The next one is AoE size, so this is how big, how many cells we should target in an area around the target cell. So let's go ahead and give it an AoE size of, I don't know, let's say 3. We can give it a mana cost as well. Let's have it cost 5 mana. And now we'll fill out our effect entries here. If you haven't seen the tutorial for effects, that's okay. It was the tutorial before this one. I'm going to kind of just go through and select the ones to get us a stun effect going. And I'll go over why I'm choosing the values that I'm choosing. So first of all, pretty straightforward. I want to select the stun effect. For stun, the magnitude doesn't really matter because it's more of the fact that the unit is stunned. If you're stunned, you're going to lose your turn. So a magnitude really doesn't have any bearing, but we can just fill in some number for that. For the percent chance to inflict, I'm going to leave this at 0, but I am going to click the always inflict effect. And this is basically a way to always allow the status effect to be inflicted. You don't have to put anything in the percentage chance to inflict. All right, so for durations in turn, let's just have them stunned for 2 turns. And for a stun effect, we want to reapply every turn to ensure that the turn loss occurs at the beginning of their turn. Trigger on application, this can be true or false. I think in the last video I made it true, so we'll make it true here as well. And it's not a terrain effect, and it is not a non-persistent effect, so we'll leave these 2 unchecked. Now we can choose a stat that the skill scales off of, and basically what this is going to do is increase the power of the skill depending on what the stat value of the given stat is. So for a magical type of spell, I guess maybe it might be a good idea to have it scale off of intelligence. So it'll do 7 damage, and it will increase with that damage in accordance with the intelligence score of that given unit. We can give it some rules text. So let's just go ahead and fill this out really quick. This is for the UI to tell the player what exactly your skill does. So I'll say 7 plus int damage and stuns for 2 turns. All right, that looks fine. And then for a description, this is sort of the more flavor text of the skill. Let's go ahead and say something like summons a bolt of lightning from the sky on a large area. Okay, so this looks pretty good. We should be pretty much set up for our skill to take place now. So let's go ahead and hop back to the overview and we'll get it hooked up to a character unit. If you remember back to the tutorial where we set up a character unit, we're basically going to be doing that, except for we're only going to be adding a skill to one of the character units. So in order to do that, we'll just go to our databases and we'll open up our character data table. And let's go ahead and find our character Sharp that we know is in the level. And we'll go down to the skills tab down here and we'll hit this little plus button. And we'll go ahead and add our Skybolt skill. Alright, so now that we've completed all of the steps to complete our Skybolt skill, let's go ahead and dive into the simulation and take a look at what it looks like. So let's just go ahead and close the distance to our target really quickly. And we'll go ahead and select our character that has the skill. We'll go ahead and select it from our skill menu. And as you can see, it has the AoE dimensions that we specified. It has the range capabilities as well. You can sort of see the skills range as designated by this little cell zoning system that's popped up. So let's go ahead and cast it. And I think it looks pretty good. It did inflict our status effect, so it looks like it's inflicting turn loss for 2 turns, which is what we wanted. And I want to get a view of it from a different angle as well to see what it looks like when our players are using our skill from multiple different sides. Go ahead and use it again. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So yeah, it's launching our projectile, it's shooting it, it's doing the amount of damage that we wanted it to do, and it's also applying the status effect. The next skill we'll add will be a supportive skill that raises the attack power of the units targeted by it. Just like last time, we'll need to add this skill to the skill enumeration. We can do that by going to the enums folder, clicking on the skills folder, and opening up the skill list. And once again, we'll have to make a new skill with a new name, and let's call this one Bravery. There we go. So we'll go ahead and close out of the skill list, and now we'll need to go to the skills folder and make a child blueprint of the skill type that we want to make. So for this example, let's go ahead and make it a channel skill. A channel skill is a fairly universal type of skill that allows for a large amount of customization, sort of at the cost of being a little bit more involved in terms of implementation. That being said, being more involved will allow us to have a deeper understanding of the XGrid skill framework, and the end product will have more possibilities for skill visualization. So let's go ahead and right click and create a child blueprint class, and we'll call it Bravery, just like we did. We're keeping the same name as the enumeration pin. So let's open up our skill blueprint, and we'll ignore these functions up here for right now. What we want to do is right click and search for an event that we want to override from one of the parent classes, and that's going to be execute visual sequence. And we want to grab the one that's under add event because we're going to be overriding this event. And we're basically going to put the code here that's going to handle the visual sequence of our skill. And somewhere inside of this skill, we're going to want to do, inside of this event, we're going to want to do 2 things. The first thing is to tell the skill when to display the effect of the skill. So sometimes before the visual sequence ends, we want to have numbers popping up on the screen or status effects being applied, and we can use this event here to specify when we want that to happen. The second thing that we need to do is specify when the skill is going to end and hand the control of the game flow back to the game manager. Let's start by adding a Niagara system component to our actor. So we'll go up here to add component, and we'll type in Niagara particle system, and we'll select it. And we'll call this Bravery SFX. So let's go to the details panel over here, and really quickly we want to search for auto activate and disable that so that our effect only displays when we ask it to. And what we can do is we can drag our Niagara system out onto the graph. And the first thing we want to do is set the location of this Niagara system. So we'll drag the pin out and select set actor location, or set world location. And where we want to spawn this actor is basically on top of the cell that the skill is targeting. So XGrid has a number of useful variables for helping you decide where you want to spawn your special effects. And you can view them if you go over here and click on, there's this little eye next to the My Blueprint tab, and you want to click on Show Inherited Variables. And we have a couple of different areas of interest here. We can take a look at all the units involved, so we have access to those actors. We also have access to the cells that are involved in the skill as well. In this case, we want to grab the AoE target cell, and we're going to go ahead and get that cell's location, get its world location. We'll get the default root scenes world location. And I think for this skill, we want to spawn slightly above the cell that it's on. So let's go ahead and grab this, and let's actually what we can do is we can click this split struct pin button here. And we can do the same if we right click over here on the function. We can split that as well. And we're going to hook up the X and Y values as normal, but I'm going to add just a little bit to the Z coordinate so that it spawns, I don't know, let's say 5 centimeters above the cell that it's cast on, just so that, you know, it's very clearly visible and separated from the cell itself. So this looks good. We've spawned our system and we've set its location. So let's go ahead and grab that same pin, and we're going to activate it. So display our visual effects. Now, after activating our special effects, what we're going to want to do is have a little bit of a delay. So you can use either a timeline here or simply use a delay node. And we're going to let the effect system go for, let's say, 1.5 seconds. And then after that time has passed, we want to display the effects of the skill. And we can do that by calling this broadcast down here, skill visual zenith. And this is basically going to display all the numbers and status effects and basically the results of the skill on top of all of the units that the skill targets. And following that, we'll let the system sort of finish displaying its visual effects. Maybe we'll delay another second or so. And once the visual effects have dissipated, we can call this skill cast complete. And this is basically going to pass the control of the game state back to the game manager. And one thing that we can also do here is give the skill a little bit of time to sort of like finish wrapping up. Maybe there's still a few particles or something left in the air. So we'll go ahead and add a delay. And finally, we just want to destroy this actor. so that we can clean up any additional memory that it was using. And this is basically the pattern for skills in the XGrid system. Is we're going to figure out what we want to do to display the visual effects. We'll activate those visual effects in whatever manner we want to. We'll have some sort of delay using either a delay node or a timeline. We'll display the results of the skill and then pass the control back to the game manager. So really quickly, let's go ahead and set up a Niagara system asset that we can use for the special effects. And we'll just very quickly maybe modify one of the ones that comes out of the box with XGrid. So we'll go back to our main view and we'll go to Particles. And we'll go to Systems. And let's go ahead and just modify one of these existing sort of AoE buff effects. And we can do that by just, we'll click on it and we'll hit Control W or copy and paste. And we'll call this NS_bravery. And we'll go ahead and open up that and we can take a look at it really quickly. It's basically just like a little spell circle with some particles that are flying around and a couple of meshes with dissolved materials on them. And what we can do is we can just change these colors in these user exposed variables. You can go ahead and click on this little blue box over here, the overview node, and we're just going to change these colors over here so that they're more, I don't know, bravery. I guess red is a pretty nice color for bravery, so let's go ahead and change the red in these to 4 and maybe the green down to 1. And as you can see, we're starting to change the color of our Niagara system. So we'll do the same here, 4 and 1, and the same for the user color 1, 4 and 1. All right, so we have something of a visual system for our skill now. And let's go ahead and hook it up to our blueprint. We'll go here into the Niagara system asset and we'll type in NS_bravery. And what I might do is grab a thumbnail really quick so that this more reflects what it looks like inside of our browser. And this is basically it. We've set up the visual effects for our skill and we're ready to move on to the next step. So just like with our projectile skill, we'll need to set the initial transform and class for our skill. So let's go ahead and go back to units and open up our character unit. And we'll go back to our select skill class function. And really quickly, we can see that our enumeration pin here doesn't have anything connected to it. So we'll just grab a return node. Oops. And we'll select our skill, bravery, from the list. And we can go ahead and compile. And then we will also have to do the same thing for our transform. So let's go ahead and grab our node and we'll grab a return node. And the transform that we want to use for this one is going to be over the targeted cell. So let's just go ahead and grab our AoE target cell and get its transform. We can just return that. All right, excellent. So let's move on to describing our skill inside of the skill data table. So if you recall, we can find our skill data table inside of the databases folder, and we can click it to open it up. And let's go ahead and add a new row to our table, and we'll give it a row name of bravery, the same as our enumeration and our blueprint name. Next, we'll select it from the enumeration list here. And we're going to make this a support skill. Now, support skills in XGrid have a default effect of healing So if you want to have a healing effect inside of your skill, you can assign it here in the base magnitude. I don't see any reason to have this skill heal, but if you wanted it to, you could adjust the base magnitude here. And we'll give it a range of 2 and an AoE size of 1. And we'll give it maybe a mana cost of 5. Now down here for the effect, we said that we wanted it to boost the attack power, so let's go ahead and select attack buff. And we'll give it a magnitude of, I want it to be pretty noticeable, so let's give it a magnitude of 30, so a very powerful buff. I'm going to leave the percent chance to inflict at 0, but I'm going to have it always inflict the effect. That way we get a consistent result from our skill. So we'll always apply this 30 attack buff. And let's have it last for 3 turns. So that looks good. We'll always inflict the effect. We don't want to reapply it every turn, because then the attack buff will keep stacking every single turn. We do want it to trigger on application so that the unit gets the effect of the buff right away. And it's not a terrain effect, and we want it to persist, so we will not click either of these. We'll leave these as false. I think it's okay not to have this stat scale off of anything, or the skill scale off of anything. And for the rules text, we can put increases attack power by 30 in a small area. In description, maybe like inspires units to be more powerful. All right, excellent. So we've basically set up everything we need. Let's go ahead and hop into the game and take a look at what our skill effect is doing and how it looks. All right, so that last part was a lie. We actually have one more step to do. If you'll remember from the projectile skill section, we actually need to add this skill to one of our characters. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. Let's open up the character data table, and we'll go to Sharp, and we'll scroll down to his skills, and we'll click this add button here. We'll just add our bravery skill to Sharp. And now we're ready to see what it looks like in the emulator. So let's do that right away. You can go ahead and hit play, and let's full screen. And we'll go ahead and move our units closer to the enemy. We'll go ahead and select skill and use bravery and target it so that both Sharp and Frien get the benefit of it. So let's go ahead and use it. All right, and so they both got an attack up. So that's good. That's what we wanted. Let's see if it's the correct amount and for the correct duration. It looks like it is. So we've almost tripled this character's attack power. So let's go ahead and lay down the bonk on this enemy. All right, yeah, lots of damage. So that's basically the end of this tutorial. I hope y'all found it helpful and can use it to make your own skills inside of the XGrid framework. In the next one, we'll go over something similar to skills. We'll go over how to use items and how to make your own custom items. And I will see you guys in that next video. Take care. Bye-bye.